ecological reparation, on the one hand, approaches that kind of focus on interconnectedness and reciprocal caring between different beings and different entities, and on the other hand, kind of more eco-modernist techno-fixes, which may be ecological in different ways or informed by ecological ideas in different ways. And I'm interested in these ideas in relation to two cases. So on the one hand, microbiome and biome restoration, and on the other hand, synthetic biology endeavours to kind of mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and produce sustainable chemicals and fuels and materials. So the Synthetic Biology Research Centre, Nottingham, has primarily focused on using engineering biology to use C1 gases to produce sustainable chemicals, materials and fuels. There are microbes that can feed on gases that we see as waste gases, greenhouse gases, that are, responsible for climate change, but also produce, use that as a source to produce chemicals and materials and even feed. So it's this kind of capacity for material transformation and adding value. But also, if I can speak about the case of the microbiome, their capacity to kind of work within an ecological network and to communicate. So in terms of helminth therapy, there's an idea that they can have a regulatory effect on the human immune system through the kind of communication between helminths and other kind of constituents of the microbiome. So it's really kind of both material transformation, but also communicative and regulatory effects on broader systems and functions. Recently, there have been kind of shifts towards more ecological understandings of microbes and ecological kind of imaginary of how humans and microbes might be co-constitutive. Various ideas and theories in studies of eco-immunology and parasitology that propose that kind of through our long co-evolutionary history, humans have co-evolved with our microbiomes. The bacteria and the virus and the fungi, potentially also parasites such as helminths, co-evolved in a way that a kind of ecological balance, for example in the gut, is achieved by having all of these entities involved. And with the increasing antibiotic approaches, that kind of balance has been somehow set off kilter, because we've stripped ourselves of, particularly in Western and rich countries, stripped ourselves of this kind of microbial diversity. So this has, it's been proposed, led to the significantly increased numbers of autoimmune diseases, allergic reactions, because immune systems are kind of off kilter or no longer in balance as a result of these missing microbes. Gas fermentation is a process of feeding gases such as carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide or methane, for example, to particular strains of bacteria, which then use it as a kind of a component to produce, well, in the cases that I'm looking at, to produce a particular kind of product or output. So that might be a chemical or a material or even a single cell protein. So the biomass itself can be processed and used as animal feed, for example. Carbon recycling is perhaps a broader idea. So gas fermentation might be one process in a context of carbon recycling. So this is really the idea that, you know, there's waste carbon and one source of waste carbon might be waste gases, to rather than have that emitted into the atmosphere, to really use that as a feedstock or as a resource, and turn it into something else so that it's not emitted, and also so that the thing that you're turning it into doesn't have to be produced using petrochemical feedstocks.
This is one of them. So this is bioplastic. So this is one of the things they produce. We also produce other things like biobutanol, biomethanol, and things like that. But yeah.
With gas fermentation, there's an idea that you will have a fairly kind of centralized bioreactor that's positioned, for example, in the site of a steelworks or a cement production location or waste treatment plant, and this is kind of part of this fairly centralized system. But then there are also ideas around kind of bioclusters where, you know, people come together. This could be, for example, small-scale agricultural contexts where there might be a biogas, you know, an anaerobic digestion plant, a small consortium of farmers, for example, and these technologies might also be employed at that kind of scale too. Current commercialisation is really predominantly happening in the context of steelworks. But I think that this kind of smaller scale idea is, and certainly for other technologies within the idea of circular bioeconomy, you know, smaller scale imaginaries are certainly present. To engineer them to produce a new product. So perhaps a wild type strain might produce acetate, but you want it to produce acetone. So then you have to engineer the pathways in order to make that happen. I think that could be seen through an eco-modernist lens, because it's about rationalisation, it's about, you know, rational design, it's about, you know, harnessing natural resources or entities for human production, and perhaps simplifying the complexities of life.